So, A levels, months of revision, days of studying late at night, and tons of flashcards. So now that's all over, what do I think? I know I'm posting this video a little bit late. That's my fault. But here's what I think about the 2025 A-level exam season for maths, further maths, physics, and computer science. Edexcel for the maths exam board and the further maths exam board. OCR for the computer science exam board and AQA for the physics exam board. There's a lot of stuff to go through, so let's get to it. I'll be going through the highs, the lows, and what happened in all the madness that was the 2025 exam season. And trust me, it was actually mad. So, we're starting with Core Pure Maths 1 and 2. Okay, not a bad way to start off the exam season. I've got my exam timetable right in front of me so I can see what exams I had. And yeah, further maths is not a bad way to start things off considering I like further maths. And I remember the Core Pure Maths 1, it wasn't a difficult paper at all. It's just that because it was the first exam of the exam A levels, I was very nervous. So I did some silly mistakes, especially near the end with I think there was vectors at the end of the paper, something like that. But yeah, I did a couple of silly mistakes in paper 1, but by paper 2 I found my groove. And that was a better paper, definitely, because I was more prepared. I knew what it was going to be like. The feelings of nervousness, like, they washed away. So yeah, definitely paper 2 is a better paper than paper 1 for Core Pure, but I think it's a strong way to start off the exam season. And then, oh my god, we had physics paper 1 afterwards. Physics paper 1 was honestly a nightmare because physics is a nightmare in general, and imagine this is the last exam before we had the break, and then afterwards we had the second wave of exams. But imagine the last exam that you have before holidays is physics paper 1. That's like, why? And I spent so long revising for electricity in that paper, and AQA decided to throw up that horrendous electricity question. I literally wanted to cry during the exam. That was such a that question gave me nightmares, actually gave me nightmares. But yeah, that was physics paper 1, and then we had the holidays. So straight after the holidays we had the pure maths paper 1 exam, and that was all right because I love maths, so maths is my sort of thing that I'm good at. So that was a breeze. That was super easy. That was such a chill way to start off the next wave of exams. And then we had further mechanics 1. Again, that wasn't a bad paper. These papers, apart from physics paper 1, so far these papers haven't been that bad. Us AQA, that just likes to screw with us. I really hope the exam grade boundaries are super low. I wish, inshallah, I pray. I actually pray. Anyway, further mechanics paper 1, not bad at all. It's just that again, I made a couple of silly mistakes. In the first question and the last question, I remember I got different answers to what the my friends got, and when it got released on TikTok, the mark scheme, my answers looked a tiny bit different, but the working out was correct. So hopefully it's just going to be a bunch of method marks, not accuracy marks. But yeah, again, that wasn't too bad. And then we have physics paper 2. Oh my gosh, the MCQs. What was those? The MCQs were a completely different beast. Like, my friend, I'm mirroring what my friend said. My friend said he would rather do like a billion essays, like English essays and history essays, rather than doing the physics paper 2 MCQ again. And to be honest, I would agree with him because those paper 2 multiple choice questions were horrendous. They were like, AQA, if I see you, it's on site. You do know that, right? But yeah, no, that was crazy. And then afterwards we had the computer science paper 1. We had our computer science papers quite late, well, for me at least, in the exam season. This was around about 20 days after the exam season started. So 20 days we have a first computer science paper. So good job, whoever decided to make this timetable. Yeah, the computer science papers in general weren't that bad. They were very light. There was a couple of the essay questions. The essay questions were probably the hardest thing. I remember though, there was to make a half adder or a full adder. I didn't completely mess it up. I think I'm going to get a couple of marks, but I remember just that one question I did not get full marks in. There was one thing that I was supposed to add, and I remember after the exam I was like, why didn't I add it? There was just like this one extra like thing I forgot was like that thing. I don't know what I'm talking about, but yeah. And then the essay questions were not too shabby. It's just that I ran out of time trying to write essays. The problem with me is I was writing essay, but I didn't time myself properly, so I spent too long on the 12 marker and didn't leave any room for the 8 markers. But it's just 8 marks. Nobody's gonna care for that. I left out one 8 marker in paper 1. Paper 2, I managed for computer science. For paper 2, I managed to complete everything, which is good. Paper 2, again, I'm skipping ahead, but it's okay. Paper 2, I was very, very lucky in the fact that everything that I revised came up, which is good. Apart from the essay question, which is about thick and thin clients. I remember reading about it in a textbook, but I don't remember necessarily everything that was in the textbook, which is not a good thing, especially when you're in an exam that dictates the rest of your life, but it's alright. Yeah, thick and thin clients, OCR, that was a naughty thing you did. That was a naughty thing. But we got through it, we survived, and yeah, the computer science paper 2, although I'm talking about it like it was bad, it was definitely better than paper 1. Because the coding wasn't that bad. The coding, actually, the pseudocode, it was a lot of just sequencing. There wasn't that much selection or iteration. There was like 5 marks worth, and you just have to write about the OOP. And I was so confused, like, isn't this supposed to be harder? But then I'm just thinking maybe it's just because it's like object-oriented programming, not everybody's good at it. So, yeah. That was a shocker. There was a couple, the pseudocode was quite easier than I thought it was going to be. I remember with my friend, I was chilling with him, and we were like, hang on a second, that computer science paper seemed a little bit too easy now, didn't it? But, yeah, the computer science paper, that wasn't that bad. So I skipped ahead a bit. I was talking about computer science paper 2, but after computer science paper 1, we had maths paper 2 and physics paper 3 before we went to computer science paper 2. So let's talk about those. Maths paper 2, again, it was a breeze. Everybody was talking about like, oh, this was such a difficult paper. It wasn't a difficult paper. It was an easy paper, in fact. It's just because people weren't used to those exam questions. So they were like, they saw something different. They were like immediately, oh my God, it's such a difficult paper. But it was a very simple paper. If you knew the maths, it was a very simple paper. It's just that not many people revise for it because they only revise for the things that are predicted to come up. And nobody could have predicted that paper because that was a very different paper to what usually comes up. Although that said, there is a theory among my friends. I can't remember if it was like the 2022 paper or the 2020 paper, but in our group chats, we were like, oh, these papers are very, very similar, the Edexcel Maths and Further Maths papers, very, very similar to the 2020 and or the 2022 series, I can't remember now, but it was one of those exam series, and they were very similar, like to the T, like same questions but different numbers similar. So that was interesting. But yeah, you can't do anything with that information now that the exams are over, but I thought that was just something interesting. And I haven't seen that all like throughout the internet, so nobody noticed that, it was just yeah. Yeah, people had different exams for some reason. And I think it was for the maths exam, people had different exams for paper 2. I don't know why. It was just something that just happened. One or two of my friends got a different exam to us, and we thought they were just bugging, but they actually had a different exam. And then physics paper 3, oh my God, thank the Lord, that paper was so good. I like physics paper 3 in general because it's not that big. It's just practical questions, and then the section B is just turning points. For us, we have turning points, and turning points for me is a breeze. It's not hard at all. So alhamdulillah, I got that part of the paper. It was nice, although I did get different answers to my friends, which may suggest I got it wrong, but I don't think so. I'm like 90% sure I got them correct. So inshallah, I got those correct. And then then we had computer science paper 2, which I already talked about. And then we had Further Pure, and then Statistics and Mechanics. Further Pure, by far, was the worst paper out of all of them in terms of the further maths papers, because there was a lot of time pressure, I realised. It wasn't just me, it was everybody in my classroom, and I went and read it as well. Everybody found it very time pressured, so that didn't help me out. But apart from the time pressure, the questions were definitely difficult, but they weren't impossible. I did do a couple of silly mistakes, but I think overall it wasn't that bad. But it was definitely like out of the 4 further maths papers we had, that was definitely the worst one. And then we had Statistics and Mechanics. Again, that was anything to do with maths, I found it simple. That was a breeze. There was a lot of classical questions, very, very like simple style questions. Although they did try to trick us out. I saw you at Excel. I saw you trying to trick us out with where the theta is going to be. The theta was over here. even though it's normally over here. So I made sure to double check that, and I got those questions correct. Ha! Got you. But, and then there was a whole entire question in statistics on just large data set. Why? Why? Why do you have to do that at Excel? Just, that's so dumb. But apart from that, is anything else? I think that's it. Yeah. Apart from that, that paper was light, and that's the end of the A level exam season for 2025. So yeah, it was an alright season. I don't think it was a bad season. Yeah, we didn't get screwed over apart from physics AQA. Yeah, I think overall it wasn't that bad. I think I did quite well on it, but let's see, inshallah. I think in terms of predictions, I think the only thing that I can say for sure is an A star on mathematics, maybe an A star on computer science, but everything else, that's I'll have to just wait and see. So yeah, I know this isn't what you were expecting. You might have been expecting for me to have my exams like results early and for me to open them up in front of you, but that's going to be later. So that is my late review of a 2025 exam season for A levels. I hope you liked it. Make sure you subscribe and stuff like that. I'm going to be posting more videos to help you guys out if you're in year 12 or year 11 or year 10 or year 9 or year 8 or year 7, maybe even year 6. Anyway, yeah, subscribe, like, thumb bell that, and yeah, stay tuned. Whatever. Peace.